Hi, my name is Peggy Connors. I'm from Parkland Medical Center and I represent the New Hampshire Dietetic Association. I'm here today with Christine Lauer. We are both registered dietitians and we'd like to talk to you about the Mediterranean diet. Welcome, Christine.
Well, thank you, Peg. It's been a long time since we've sat down in these chairs, and I'm really
surely
happy to be
is.
there. And the Mediterranean diet is a nice topic to start our new season with.
This is a new season for us. Eat Right New Hampshire is a program brought to you by the New Hampshire Dietetic Association. We are a group of registered dietitians and we hope to let you know about nutrition. Nutrition happens one bite at a time.
That's right.
And the bites today we're going to have are about the Mediterranean diet. And you hear a lot about this, Christine. What is a Mediterranean diet?
Well, it seems that a lot of the research on the Mediterranean diet supports its health. It's one of the healthiest diets on the planet at this point. It's right up there in the top group. So the Mediterranean diet originates
In
the Mediterranean.
I'll bet.
And why? Well, you have sun and you have earth and you have water. It's a sunny, sunny region and it's beautiful. You have a lot of growth, a lot of fish, many, many things there that in a culture that's been around for thousands of years.
Do we find that the people in the Mediterranean live a healthier lifestyle because of this?
Well, I'm assuming they are, but unfortunately I've never been there, but I hear that they do. They are outdoors, they walk, they don't use the vehicles as much as we depend on them. They don't have as much suburbia, perhaps, so they walk around in the cities and the villages that they have to get everything. But everything is fresh. The concept there in Europe would be that everything is fresh. And we can duplicate that here in the United States very, very easily. We have over 500,000 items in the supermarket now, and we have at least 20,000 or more new items that are available to us from around the world that are fresh.
We have a great access to food in this country.
Yes.
So anything we want to do, we should be able to do. The thing is, there's so much processed food. Those 50,000 items or whatever that's in the grocery store,
Right.
quite a great deal of them are processed.
Now, it's interesting because the basis of the Mediterranean diet is it's based on fatty fish, lots of healthy oil, and you know what kind?
Olive oil.
Olive oil. And in Europe, it's cold pressed or extra virgin is very common. And what does that mean? It just means that they put it mechanically in a press and they press the olives, and they don't filter it in Europe, but for the American market, they filter it because we don't like our oil cloudy.
But you get the extra virgin olive oils, you get a bonus there with the antioxidants are a little bit higher in the extra virgin.
It is rich in antioxidants.
So if you're going to go out there and search for an olive oil, you want to look for the virgin or extra virgin oils.
Right, and there are, I guess, hundreds of kinds. You want to be a little bit careful. If you want, it's one area that you want to spend a little more money on your olive oil if you can. You know, certain things in the budget you can keep at a lower cost, but on your olive oil, get the best quality that your home budget can afford.
Because you'll get the bonus of those antioxidants.
Absolutely. And I actually have the olive oil that I brought from home today, but I'm not recommending a brand or anything. But you can see that it comes in a dark bottle to keep it fresh, because this will go rancid within a year. And that tells me that it's a cold-pressed, real olive oil. What we do for oils, typically, I'm going to compare this to an industrial processed oil. Industrial oil is usually extracted through petroleum solvents, hexanes, bleached, deodorized, sanitized, whirled around, and put in a nice bottle, shelf stable for about 5 years. It won't go rancid, and it doesn't smell when you open it.
It doesn't smell like olive oil.
But what's missing is all those rich antioxidants, because how can they survive that level of refinement? So that's why you want to get the best olive oil and the freshest olive oil that you can find. And that is foundational to the Mediterranean diet. When they did the studies, 35 to 38%, sometimes even 40% of their diet is based on fat, but healthy fats like olive oil.
So no butter on their bread?
Well, it depends on where in Greece, but more olive oil, obviously. And they also use healthy fats like avocado. Another plant-based. What's the key thing? That is a monounsaturated fat, and this is a monounsaturated fat. So there are no studies associated with this that show any problems with health. They are 100% health supporting.
What we don't want to have is what you find in the butters and margarines and mayonnaises and things like that.
Well, butter to a point does have health benefits, but obviously a tablespoon of butter is different than a stick of butter.
Yes.
And butter is real. So we still, saturated fat is getting a lot of new looks nowadays. So that is, the dust is starting to, and that's not settled yet. So I won't go to the butter controversy, margarine, but I think butter's real, olive oil's real. For a monounsaturated fat with no health issues whatsoever, stick to the monounsaturated fats. Because what that means is one chain is, I think, a double bond where it can come apart, so it doesn't form as many free radicals.
And that's what you want to keep away from.
Saturated fat doesn't form any, but this is really good in poly, which means there's a few more double bonds.
It's a little bit up there on the
That
chain.
one, you really need to eat tons and tons of vegetables to counter any oil that will create free radicals in your body.
So speaking of vegetables, the next big thing in the Mediterranean diet?
Vegetables. What else goes with sun and earth and water? Photosynthesis. And what happens with photosynthesis? If you remember, we all learned that when we were in school, in our biology class, right? So we have beautiful, wonderful plants. And you have lots of greens in the Mediterranean diet. Now, if you were in Europe, you'd pick the grasses right off the side of the hills. But here, the greens that we have available are lettuces. And we also have kale and collard greens and Swiss chard and a variety of greens that it really behooves one to really learn how to cook them well and
explore
easily.
that area. It's something that we're not used to doing, especially in the Northeast. I think you have to try different things. They're in the grocery store. There are people that are using them. Take a chance and get out there.
The markets, when I go to markets here, some supermarkets you walk in and that produce aisle is gorgeous. They've well displayed, everything is, you just want to buy everything. And then some, you walk in and you're looking at it and it looks like, well, I'm not sure what I want for supper here. But what you want to do is if you can buy local, but also if you have a supermarket that you really like and you trust their produce, you can buy that there. I tend to buy local all summer, and now the seasons change, so I'm back to the supermarket. But I did want to show you, look at the color in this bowl and in the surrounding foods. You have the green of the avocado, the red of the apple, the orange and the colors here, and I have a red onion. Tomato, luscious, but I wanted to show you these carrots, okay? Peg, these are marvelous. I got this at the farm stand.
Loving carrots.
This is veggie love. Okay, and what happens with them, they can come apart, but they prefer to be together, and I just really don't want to eat them, but I'm sure that
You're
they
going to
will.
have to, because
I will have to because they won't last, but those are good. Aren't they
gorgeous?
cute? I think they're unbelievable.
Fantastic.
So the broccoli is a cruciferous vegetable, so they're all they tend to be
Antioxidant chock full.
anti-cancer too. I mean, you really want to drive the genes in your body that express good health, and in order to do that, you want to eat foods that you were meant to eat as a human being.
We were put here.
Right. What did we eat for thousands of years?
But we've introduced so many more things, and we've introduced processing so many of the foods that were put here naturally for us that we've changed our whole culture and the way we look at things.
Yes.
Instead of using grains as grains, we make bread, we make pastas, we make everything out of the grains instead of eating the grains the way they are.
Right.
Not that having any breads or pasta is bad.
Well, you can have grains with the Mediterranean diet.
But
just
what would we do with them in the Mediterranean diet?
Well,
a little bit different than we used to.
Right. Well, they do tend to make crusty breads in the Mediterranean as well. And believe it or not, they do eat cheese for breakfast, and they put it in a pastry dough type of thing, but a bread, or bread and cheese. But I think, and sometimes they dip it in olive oil, so they still do that. But traditionally, what did we do with grains? I mean, that dates back 14,000 years when agriculture came in. And we would soak them for 1 day to 1 week, and then they would cook them in long-term cooking. Slow
and
cooking. It might be all day, it might be for 2 days. So we release the toxins in the grains because they're meant to stay together. Animals can't come along and just eat the seeds. They want to spread, they want to go somewhere else. So we germinate them and we cook them low and long temperature, and then you get the health benefits from them. So we've changed that. Everything now is instant. The milling of flour, what happened to all these grains? In the 1960s, they even changed the process, so it's more like blowing it into white powder. And then they take it and they shape it in different shapes, add vitamins, and that's what we're eating. So we're eating way too much of that. So
as opposed to balancing it a little bit more with the vegetables and some
We
other
all,
pieces.
we all know what bread looks like when it's gorgeous loaf of bread and it's an artisanal bread or a sourdough bread. That's a wonderful way to
use
get
your grains.
to eat bread. And again, the grains in the Mediterranean diet, it is primarily based on vegetables and oils and fatty fish, and they eat other meats as well. They have a lot of lamb, and
In Greece.
Yeah.
Specifically, they have a lot
Well,
of
the
lamb.
Mediterranean too.
Well, we'll take a little break here, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the protein portion of the Mediterranean diet.
That's right. We have a lot to talk about.
We do. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Peggy Connors with the New Hampshire Dietetic Association, here with Christine Lauer. We are talking to you today about the Mediterranean diet, these wonderful fruits and vegetables, the nuts, the grains, and the protein items that make up a very healthy diet, especially in the Mediterranean region of our wonderful planet. Christine, we've covered all the vegetables, we've covered the fruits, the vegetables, the olive oil. There's another part of this diet we need to tie in. How about the protein part?
Well, they have quite a variety of proteins, and I think I mentioned earlier that they did rely a lot on fatty fishes, so let's start with that a little bit. So
Okay.
I brought a lot of them with me today. I took them right out of my cupboard, so these are my personal choices, but there are many, many different types out there. So I'm going to start with maybe a more exotic, at least to me, the anchovies. So you can find anchovies anywhere, but they're loaded with omega-3s. And most people find these on pizza, which is probably not quite Mediterranean, but a certain version of it is, right?
I guess, but anchovies, how would you use anchovies?
You can put them in a salad. You can make them into an hors d'oeuvre paste. You can serve them just on top of eggs in an omelet. So there are quite a few different things that you can do with anchovies. My husband has a lot of uses for them, but I don't like them quite as much as I like the other types of fish.
What other types?
So I tend to buy tuna fish, and tuna, I've switched back to my tuna in oil because this one, it comes in olive oil. So a lot of times I can take this to work, and I take some lettuce or chopped up greens that I might buy at the supermarket, and all I have to do is pop this top open and mix it with the greens, and I have a salad with the dressing right there because it's well seasoned.
There you go.
So that's an easy one. And the only caution I say to tuna fish is you try not to have more than, I think the recommendation right now is 1 can a week. And that is due to the mercury. That we do have in the oceans and some of our seafood. So a few others, and these are personal favorites of mine now. These are all natural smoked wild kippers, which are actually herring. So they're small little cold water fish.
And
they're about the length of that, but their heads are chopped off in this particular package. And you know what I found? I use a little rice, I chop up a hard-boiled egg, I put these in with it, and a little bit of butter and a squeeze of lemon, and it makes a wonderful lunch or breakfast if you just add some string beans for lunch. And breakfast, it's a fine food. It's not Mediterranean quite, it's Scandinavian, but I'm using all of the Mediterranean components in that. So I love these, and they're so easy. The other thing that would fall into place here would be sardines or mackerel, little mackerel fillets in the supermarket. Smelts, exactly. That's the same thing. And anything, when you go to the fish market or in the supermarket in the fish section, you can look at what's come in. Mackerel is hard to find in the supermarkets. It's still available all over Europe, but we tend not to really, people don't buy them. They don't know how to cook them anymore.
How would you use a mackerel?
Well, I usually buy this type. However, I have a friend that's a fisherman, and he just caught some, so he's going to be giving them to me. So this will be a new experiment for me as well.
That'll be
But since I propose those type of fish all the time, I have to try it. So, but you can always rely on some of the canned goods as well. These are minced clams. You don't need to see what kind or anything, but it's still fish. And it is used, mussels are commonly used in the Mediterranean as well as in the United States.
Not as much the white fishes, though.
I think they use the sea bass and they use other kinds of fish, but they rely more heavily on what they just pull with their nets from the sea. We don't do that quite because I don't think maybe we don't have the same type of fish. It's not my area of expertise, so I'm not going to expand upon it. But
I think they have more of this type of fish than we do.
readily, right off there if they live on the ocean that's right off their yard, they can go right to
Their
it.
front yard.
And taste some oysters. So any of those foods, but the omega-3s really come from the small fatty fish and the anchovies. They also have poultry.
Use eggs.
So they use eggs, and they raise their own chickens.
Chickens are okay.
Chickens
What
are
about
okay.
red meat?
They do tend to eat lamb and beef as well. I don't think they incorporate it quite the same way as we do. It's not as involved, but it's certainly there on a weekly basis, if not, a few days a week.
Usually about once a week, I would say, with the red meats.
Right.
Huh?
And it depends to your taste. I think they tend to use all of the animal there, whereas here we tend to shy away from using all of the animal.
Well, we might end up with it in our sausage or something, but I think
That's the only way we'll eat it.
Then
Although
it's
I've gone back to more traditional cookings because I am a member of the Weston A. Price Foundation, which is an organization that goes back to traditional cuisines prepared in traditional ways. And you just take real food, you take all of the animal, you take it the way it comes in nature. You don't alter it to make it low fat if it came in nature with fat. You just use it in a proper
way.
perspective within your meals.
What about the, we have some nuts here that are also protein.
You can use it as protein. It's also fat. So the nuts, like I have some sliced almonds here, which are terrific. You can throw this in yogurt because yogurt is also, we know Greek yogurt, so everybody knows that
Obviously.
now. And that's very popular in the United States now. But there isn't anything better. I love plain yogurt, and I toss these about a tablespoon, no more than 2. It spreads out through the yogurt, makes it crunchy. And then I throw some fresh fruit in it.
Makes a good meal.
Can't
nice
get
lunch.
Can't
nice
get
snack.
healthier than that. And a nice snack too. Low glycemic snack for those people that are struggling with high blood sugar or high triglycerides. This one can help keep that blood sugar from going up.
There you go.
So it's a good mix. The other thing we didn't talk about are the dried fruits, but obviously figs, grapes, raisins,
Are
things
all
like
part
that.
of the Mediterranean
Dates
diet.
are all part of the Mediterranean diet. And Peggy, I wanted to mention one thing, because fresh food is the basis of the Mediterranean. But
Well, Europeans shop differently than we do.
yes.
They
So we wanna
usually
be-
will shop for the day. If they go to the market, they go to the market, buy for the day. It's fresh. They bring it home. They cook it fresh.
Right.
Here, we will go to the market and buy for as much as 7 days at a time.
Yes, some people longer than that, 2 weeks before they go back to the supermarket. So we need to be able to get some things in packages. That's why the fish are always handy. These are chopped tomatoes that I got from any brand can do, but this one, there is only tomatoes. It's from Italy. There isn't anything in it. You have to put your seasoning in.
Right.
But it's almost as if you package them, can them yourself. So a lot of times you want to rely on some packaged foods in order to make the Mediterranean diet work for you.
Packaged but unprocessed.
Right. So when I look at the ingredients, what do the ingredients say? Tomatoes.
There's only one.
Yep.
Let's take a little look at some of the types of things that we're talking about cooking with these Mediterranean diet items.
This is a cookbook that I have at home, and you can pick up any Mediterranean cookbook if you're interested in starting this adventure. But I just want to show you, a lot of times people, as a dietitian, a lot of people say to me that they really don't like vegetables. And I just want to focus on this picture a little bit, because when you look at this, it is luscious and delicious. And I don't see how anybody
That's a great looking plate.
can't just want to devour that entire page. Of course, it'd be real.
That's a great looking plate.
So that's a Mediterranean cookbook. It has a lot of good things in it. Here's some more vegetables, and this is what they do with peppers. They stuff the peppers full of wonderful, and I think there's some of the grains that we have in the Mediterranean.
They're stuffed with, it says almonds and
It
all
might-
kinds of
It might
parsley.
be, I don't know if
and-
there's couscous in there or not, but there are a lot of other vegetables in there, so it's a wonderful treat. So there are some things that you can do with the vegetables. Now, as we talked about some of the proteins, I didn't have any fresh proteins to bring in. So what I did was I just marked a couple pages here, and I wanted to show you these 2 pages, which might be a little difficult to see. On one side you have sardines. Now, we used to be able to buy sardines at the market, and you could cook them fresh yourself, and they're delicious.
I love sardines.
Right, they taste great, especially that way. And on the other side we have the calamari, or the squid. very common in the Mediterranean.
And there's a lot of other ways to cook it other than fried.
Absolutely. But this one I think is just pan-fried in olive oil, so they certainly do a
Use
good
that
job with
oil.
that. And here's what we've gotten away from in our culture a little bit. So what you're looking at here is it's a baked fish, and look at how they serve it. It's the entire
Entire
fish.
fish.
So,
You'd have to do a little bit of massaging once you got to the table with that guy.
right. And I think you do have to make sure that the bones are carefully extracted. But they tend to serve their food whole, the way it comes in nature. And they're not afraid of it, and they know how to cook it that way. So we could be a little adventurous here and there. But other than that, you can buy the already filleted fish and present it in the same fashion.
Exactly.
So this is a gorgeous Mediterranean. They have many books on the Mediterranean and
diet.
Mediterranean diet. I just happen to like one that has a lot of pictures so that I know what it's supposed to look like.
Once you get done.
Right.
Well, what better to go with some of these great dishes than?
We didn't mention that, Peg. I forgot about the wine. And again, in moderation. In Europe, they tend to drink wine, table wine at meals. But here in America, we sometimes wait until the weekend or a festivity. But there's nothing wrong with enjoying a glass of wine at your evening meal. And the only thing that I would caution against is just because one glass of wine at the evening meal is good, we don't want to run away with that and say
More
the
is
entire bottle is fine every night. I don't think that would work so well with your doctor.
More is not better.
Right,
in
because
this
you
case.
want to protect, this is a diet that enhances health, so you want to protect your liver, and alcohol in excess is very harmful to the liver and creates a fatty liver. Genes actually want us to eat a diet that's rich in antioxidants and phytonutrients and healthy fat-soluble vitamins.
So this Mediterranean diet meets those criteria.
Absolutely.
Why don't we do a little recap of what we've talked about today?
Okay, so when we started out in the morning, I think we went right to the oils in the beginning. We were talking about wonderful, the best quality olive oil that your budget will allow you to get, and you want to make sure that it's extra virgin olive oil, and it means it's cold pressed. It's not extracted through petroleum solvents or hexanes. It's just put in a press and squashed, and then you get all that fine oil from it. Any of the wonderful vegetables in here, don't forget these love bug carrots. Fruit, we didn't talk too much about fruit, but fruit is a wonderful component. It's just that we don't recommend too much of it. A couple of servings of fruit a day is fine for everyone. The healthy fats from an avocado, the healthy fats from these wonderful cold water, small fatty fish, as well as we talked about the lamb and other types of protein sources, and the chickens and the wonderful egg. This is actually a hard-boiled egg that I cooked this morning. Nuts are a wonderful component, nuts and seeds, because they provide wonderful protein and they provide wonderful healthy fats as well, and they're low glycemic, Peggy, which means if you struggle with triglycerides or high blood sugars, that it really doesn't spike those sugars and make you hungrier later, and it doesn't raise the blood sugar level. So it's good. And we have some dried fruits. Figs are a large component, but they're out of season at this point, so use those in moderation. Then we talked about anything that we could get in a package, as long as when you look at the ingredients, what do they say? This package of chopped tomatoes, says just tomatoes. And these fish just say herring or fish, that's it, or tuna in olive oil. And we showed you some beautiful pictures from the Mediterranean cookbook, so pick one up, anyone will do, as long as it's comfortable for you. And we finished off, Peg, before you sort of turned this back to me. You turned it with a taste of wine in moderation. There's nothing wrong with a glass of wine a few times a night, but don't forget, you have to take a couple of days to rest your liver.
Of course. Well, there you have it, the Mediterranean diet and how it can be a healthy lifestyle for you. We brought to you by the New Hampshire Dietetic Association, where we want to remind you that health happens one bite at a time. We'll see you next time on Eat Right New Hampshire.